This is, I think, going to be not necessarily a two-part video, but I'll find a way to make 2 videos out of it. So in addition to asking you to subscribe, I'd like to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Quaker Rice Cakes. Now, personally, I choose the low salt or no salt options, and I'll put a little bit of peanut butter, a little bit of honey, a little bit of cinnamon. You get yourself a nice snack. Now, I'm not going to vouch for any of the other flavors because of the amount of sodium in each individual cake. But for these low salt ones, I think they're a relatively healthy, nutritious snack. And I would recommend them to just about anybody. So today's video sponsor, Quaker Rice Cakes. When it comes to the iPhone's battery, I have understood why people continue to buy the phone, but as you just do a small amount of research, you see that Apple puts batteries in these phones that aren't suitable for what these phones are capable of doing. I guess maybe that's the best way to put it. I mean, in summary, they should just put higher capacity batteries in their devices. Hard stop. Now, there's always been the notion of, oh, well, iOS is more efficient than Android, so therefore we can put in these lower capacity batteries and you'll get a similar or better experience than you would with an Android counterpart. You know, that's fine and dandy. Cool, I can understand your perspective on that. But I also say, well, why don't you just put a similarly sized battery in your device so that way the experience in terms of battery life is just significantly better than a comparable Android device. So let's go ahead and listen to what my friends over at the Vergecast have to say about the iPhone 16 and even 15 batteries. And then, you know, I'll come back.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. All right, last thing, and then we got to take a break. Battery life. Full last week of theses about best battery life ever that didn't mean anything and didn't even have graphs that didn't mean anything. Just a lot of open-ended statements about battery life. Have either of you noticed any new changes in the battery life of your iPhone in your testing so far?
I mean, I'll say it's good, but it's not like you can't get 2 days out of an iPhone battery all of a sudden. It's just sort of like, yeah, I think it keeps up with me all day. I can do a whole bunch of stuff and stream the radio station and do GPS and it's okay. I think the question on our minds is like, how is this going to perform in the long run? Like the 15 Pro has been kind of notorious for running down the battery health alarmingly fast.
So I'll say this, and I'm going to include it in another video, but would it surprise you? Because it actually did. It surprised me that it was true, but it didn't surprise me because it was Apple doing it. That the battery in the 15 Pro is smaller or has a lower capacity than that of the regular 15. How is it a Pro device with a lower capacity battery than its non-Pro counterpart? I made a whole video with some graphs and some charts a while ago. If I remember, I'll link it somewhere, and it's actually pretty boring. And I was explaining this to one of my friends that, you know what, my videos aren't that entertaining, but I think they're pretty informative. If I could find a way to merge the two, yeah, I'd also have, you know, millions of subscribers, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, to her point, she's saying, yeah, it's good. I mean, I feel like good is relative. I also feel that for people whose primary device is this company's device, their experience is what it is. And they say, yeah, it's okay. Now, I have my Zenfone 10 right here that I've been using for about a year, a little less than a year, but I had the Zenfone 9 before it. And yeah, I thoroughly am satisfied with the battery life in that device. I'm satisfied with how fast the phone charges. So they need to go hand in hand. You need to have high capacity batteries and fast charging. The iPhone, for both of them, I'm kind of like, okay, all right. But let's get back to what she has to say.
So, yeah, it's like TBD. It's fine now on the 16 and the 16 Plus. You can just like add 30% to, like, it'll go that much more because it's just massive. But that's been my experience.
Yeah, I have the same general experience. The 16 Pro Max, which is a huge phone, by the way, has a bigger battery in it, and it runs longer. I mean, I've had the camera open and the screen on shooting this video the whole week, basically. it's fine. It's doing its job. But my 15 Pro doesn't make it through the day anymore.
Yep, and there's another person talking about that 15 Pro, that battery. It's not good, and I'm happy I didn't invest any money in that device. I did buy a regular 15, and I used it as my primary phone for a couple of months. I actually recently just mailed it up to my mother for her to use because, and a little side note, that since I'm the one buying her phones and I was using Android, I said, you're also going to use Android because that messaging experience is better than if we were not on the same platform. However, now that Apple has decided to also adopt RCS, I'm comfortable with her going back to iPhone because I do think she enjoyed the device better. So she's an iPhone user, and that will be once we get everything set up. My brother's an iPhone user, but my father and I are both Android users. But literally yesterday, I sent a message in our little family group chat and said, for the first time in a decade, we can have a proper group chat, even though we are using different platforms. So I was excited about that. But yeah, battery life is important, and I really feel like it's a combination of, hey, we don't want to give you too much because we don't really have much else to show, or we do have other things. But when it comes to battery life, I definitely feel like that's something that everybody could benefit from. But it's unfortunate that certain device manufacturers just refuse to put high capacity batteries in their devices. So, does a brand new phone make it through the day? Yes, I think that is the case for every brand new phone. Right. 6 months from now or a year from now, when you're still looking at your $1,400 investment, is it gonna survive? And we have to find out. I think Apple is actually on a bad run of this. I think the 14 Pro was bad and the 15 Pro was bad, and I'm hoping the 16 Pro is better. But there's a little gnat here. I think my frustration comes when it's like, okay, you are openly saying, hey, there's something about this that I don't like, but I'm just going to buy the next year's phone. And it's just like, why? Like, yes, I understand iMessage lock-in is real. I sincerely understand that. But the amount of complaints, not just talking about the battery life, that I hear people make about their devices. And I'm like, well, why don't you just go find something else? And they're like, well, and that's kind of like where the conversation dies. It's like, you use the internet the same way that I do. If you aren't satisfied with what you are using, go find something else. And again, I just said it a few moments ago, I do understand that iMessage lock-in is real, but if that's the only thing keeping you on board, then that's a sad place to be in. And, I've been in and out, and finally I was just like, no, I don't like this thing, so I'm going to go find something else. And in terms of doing adequate research, yeah, I will be the first to say that I did not know that these Zen phones existed. And finally, I was like, I want a smaller phone. Used the internet and eventually stumbled across the Zenfone 9 back when I bought that. And then, of course, the following year, they released the 10. And I was like, oh, great. Yeah, I didn't plan on upgrading because it looked pretty much to be the exact same phone, which for the most part it is. But yeah, I found what I wanted. And for them to just, he just flat out said, yeah, the 14 Pro was bad. The 15 Pro was bad. Let's hope that the 16 Pro is better. How about you go find something else then? I believe he is a Pro Max user, I think. I honestly don't know. And maybe he's just talking about from his experience reviewing the phones. But there are plenty of people out there who buy them. And yeah, later on, he's going to talk about the fact that he has to walk around with a MagSafe charger like when he leaves the house because he knows he can't make it through the day.
Yeah, I agree. And even in the best case scenario, it feels like we're still very much at, you can use your phone all day, but you should probably charge it every night. Mm-hmm. And until we're past that, don't give me big speeches about battery life.
Oh no, I'm in a different spot entirely.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm at until I don't have to leave my house with a little MagSafe battery. Don't talk to me.
Mm. Oh wow.
Right, that's where I'm at with the 15 Pro. I leave the house with a battery pack. Or I put it into low power mode, right? And that battery is only at 93% according to iOS.
That's miserable. I have to leave the house with a battery pack, and or I place my phone in low power mode all the time because I know that if I don't do one or both of those things, my phone's not going to make it through the day. Why are you buying this thing? The camera's fine. And then back then, iMessage, FaceTime, or, whatever other things. But I get no device is going to be perfect. No device is going to be perfect. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they need to be charged. They need power. And if the company isn't supplying you with one that is adequately, I guess, capable of receiving enough juice, i.e. having a big enough battery or a high enough capacity battery, then maybe we should start looking at the alternative, which, for him might just be getting a bigger phone, which if you want to do that, fine, or Android. And this isn't even an operating system thing at this point. These are device manufacturers making decisions about the capacity of the battery that they choose to put in their devices. So you mentioned, the two previous Pros were bad when it comes to battery life, and now with the one that he's currently using, which is the 15 Pro, not the 16 Pro yet, he has to leave the house with a MagSafe battery pack and or put the phone in low power mode. Terrible, absolutely terrible. But they keep buying these things.
That's pretty bad.
I know people who are down in the 80s after a year.
I'm at 89 last I checked a few days ago.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
And there's all this depends. It's impossible to measure. Like if you stay at home and Wi-Fi all day, these batteries are great. Right. The second you leave the house, you go into like 3 or 4 challenging cell environments. If you take the subway, the phone's hunting between stations for signal. Like you're going to run the battery on faster. So the idea that it is just better is probably true in the beginning. You're going to have a radically different experience. And I think Apple's challenge now is maintaining battery health over time, especially because the battery replacements on these phones are more expensive than they were before.
Yep. So 2 things. I mean, I think these are professionals. They've been doing this for a while. I think he said he started The Verge a decade ago, and prior to that, working, I think, with Engage. A bunch of stuff. They've been doing it for a while. But every time I hear them kind of give in this case, $1 trillion company a pass of, Apple has a challenge. No, they don't. They just put a higher capacity battery in the phone. And I was talking with a coworker about this because he has a Galaxy S23 Ultra. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's nice to have a big screen because you get the big battery. And then he says he wants a smaller phone, a smaller screen, but he knows that he's going to take a hit on battery life. Now, to some extent, yes, just that is true. However, in the Galaxy S23, there is a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. In the 6.1-inch screen, or I'll say the 6.1-inch Sony Xperia 10 Mark whatever, also 5,000 milliamp hours. So every time somebody says, bigger battery, they need to understand that the physical size of the battery is not the same as the battery capacity. So I'm not an expert, but if Sony's phone is physically smaller than Samsung's phone, yet their battery capacities are the same, clearly it's possible. So here, Nilay, who was the gentleman that was just talking, to say Apple is being challenged or has a challenge. No, they don't. They're making a cognitive decision to put lower capacity batteries in their devices. And that's it. Hard stop. That is just some MBA saying, hey, what if we don't put high capacity batteries in our devices? And the last thing that he just mentioned right there is, now, in addition to putting relatively small or low capacity batteries compared to our counterparts in our devices, the cost to replace the battery is now more expensive. I think it's like up to $130 now or something. Like I don't know the exact price, but yeah, it's bananas, absolutely bananas. But I always come back to this: people keep buying them. So why are they going to change? Why are they going to change?
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. I think this is going to be a particularly fun generation of iPhones to come back to in 6 months because, like you're saying,
because all the software will change.
All the software will change. Literally, it's possible that the whole value prop of an iPhone will change if Apple is right about what all of this stuff can do.
Particularly for the 16.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
because then it becomes the one that you're supposed to upgrade to, and I just don't know. By the way, speaking of battery life, we have no idea what the effect of Apple Intelligence and battery life will be. Here's a bunch of stuff that might just be running in the background, summarizing everything on your phone at all times. And we don't know. The Apple Intelligence goes to the cloud, right? The private cloud compute for a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
It's going to run.
Yeah, I'm going to stop because it's starting to play some music, and I'm assuming that's open source music, but I don't know. But yeah, he brings up another good point of, right now Apple Intelligence is not really a thing that the consumer can use or the average consumer is going to use when it gets rolled out. Yeah, is that going to also be a massive hit on battery life if things are constantly running in the background? I have no idea. So that's him speculating, but it is definitely a possibility. So, in summary, battery life on these devices are usually not the greatest. And in fact, I'll just say this. They could be significantly better, but Apple is choosing to not make them good. And that's it. Just choosing to not make them good. I mean, they could be battery monsters. Put that same 5,000 milliamp hour battery that's in the Sony Xperia 10 Mark 6 into an iPhone 16, 5,000. And, oh yeah, this is probably close to a 2-day phone at this point. In fact, with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6, that has 5,000 milliamp hour batteries. And I do think Sony is marketing that as a 2-day battery life phone now. All right, so a phone that can last you 2 days. So does it, really happen? Like, I don't know, but they're at least trying. At some point, 5,000 will no longer be that ceiling. I think there are a few phones that are ginormous that have higher capacity batteries than that. But in this situation, we're talking about the iPhone. They just choose to not put high capacity batteries in their device, and that's it. If you made it this far, great. Consider alternatives if you aren't satisfied with what a company is giving you.